Kevin, Lee, Luca, and Lorem, you are next on episode 23 of the Reddit Golf Swing Analysis Series. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Line Golf Academy, and thank you for the support of this Reddit Golf Swing Analysis. It's great to see all these students come in and submit their videos, and we can help them with their cause and effect. Keep in mind, this is just a cause and effect series and not necessarily swing tip series. That is on the student to go to their instructor and work with them individually or decide to go on it on their own. Today we have 4 students who submitted their swing to me about a week ago to 2 weeks ago, so I apologize for the delay, but we're going to get caught up pretty soon. We have enough videos for the next 2 videos, and then we'll be caught up to real time, so submissions will happen a lot sooner. If you do like this, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps promote the channel and grow the channel so other people can submit their videos and this becomes a community. As I always say in my quick disclaimer, I don't know any of these students. I'm not sure of their range of motion issues unless they tell me in their notes, and even then I'd have to put them on a TPI program just to see what we're dealing with. Along with that, I'm not sure of their history, and again, unless they put it in the notes, I'm just going blindly on this. I also look at these swings for the first time along with you, so it might take me a little bit of time to figure out what's going on, but I try to get it as soon as I can. So with that being said, we have Kevin on the screen. So Kevin, there is no notes for Kevin, so we'll just get started and take a look at the swing here. Okay, Kevin, I'm going to guess you're somewhere in... Ooh, maybe I can lie a little bit, cheat over there. What does that say? Something Golf Academy? Gregbury? Orenbury? I don't know. Let's just say England. All right, let's take a look here. So we take that club back. A little bit of lower body rocking. Some transfer issues. Both toes are in the air. That could be a little bit of shaft humping, loss of posture from the side. We'll have to look. Width of arc is decent. Club goes a little disconnection there that we see, a little top heavy, and we have to compensate for that coming through. Tiny bit of flipping going on, not too bad though. So I'm not sure of anything in your notes. Usually notes help out. So not bad. So let's take a look here. Let's draw some lines, some basic lines for us. And by the way, great video. Thanks for the nice large video. I love these. Okay, so we got the head brace line, the lower body brace line. I drew these backwards. See, when I deal with lefties, my mind goes backwards sometimes, so forgive me for that. Let's put this the other way. I was about to say, that's quite a long brace line he's got to get back to. All right, so we see a little bit of rocking going on there. And then shifting back into, so very lower body is rocking. Ball position is pretty good in terms of your spine angle. Maybe a little bit too much tilting going on here because, you know, your tilting's under, your spine is basically here, and we extend that out so we can see the ball position slightly behind of where it should be based on that position, that starting position. So it could be too much tilt. It could be a little bit open as well. We'll have to see from down the line, but that does have some effect on you at impact, because now if you truly release at that point, you'll actually be hitting on the upswing. So you might compensate for that by sliding into it, and sliding into it, maybe you compensate by sliding back. So now all of a sudden you start sliding too much, and when you start sliding, it's really hard to drive weight correctly, which is probably why we see you slide. And from down the line, I would suspect you might lose some posture because of the sliding instead of rotating. So it kind of stems back from posture and alignment. So you can see that your left hip kind of braces over that. You can see here you've kind of shifted, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches. As a result, when you start, turning too much over here, you can see the upper body is kind of leaning in that tiny little fraction there. Right when that transition stops, you start leaning towards the target a little bit, and that's going to shift your weight incorrectly. Now you're going to be leaning a little bit, and then you're going to slide back into it, and you try to slide back to where you started from, which is right about here. Now your momentum, instead of driving and turning, is more sliding and sliding. And as a result, you might increase your spine angle slightly there. So this is good. You definitely want to get an increase of spine angle, which is nice because you want to try and hit up on it. But when your motion's going into the golf ball too much as a recovery, you kind of have to stand up and flip, because now your hands really have to catch up, and there's only one way for them to catch up, is for them to be made room for them to flip under, if that makes sense, to catch up to that ball position. Because essentially what you've done is you slid ahead, and you've taken that ball position and moved it back, and it was already back in relation to your initial spine tilt. So hopefully I didn't confuse you there. I might have confused myself, but that's very easy to do nowadays, being outdoors in the sun all day. But you can definitely see toes are coming up in the air, which is you jumping at the golf ball. Typically when we jump at the golf ball, we lose posture as well. So down the line will be our telltale sign for everything. But in terms of the shell of your core, you can see, the core is there. It's trying to do what it needs to do. It's doing what it's given authority to do. And the authority is based on your setup and your initial top position. So let's go to the down the line, see if that helps. Okay, so from this angle, let's take a look here. We got the lower plane line, the upper plane line. We're going to draw your spine angle right through your head and match that spine angle. Now remember, the spine isn't exactly straight. It curves, just a natural curve, but we just look at a majority that straight spine angle just to help to see what's going on. A little back brace line, and we can see your feet are supporting majority of your hips. Alignment looks a little off. I'm not sure. Let's see if this is where you start to swing. Yeah, okay, so the alignment looks a little off. So the lower body looks like it's definitely opening up more. The upper body, it's hard to tell with these shadows, but the upper body kind of looks like it's open too, because I can see that lead arm kind of on the other side. So we'd like to see almost the other way. Check the alignment, but let's take a look at the motion. Okay, I'd like to see a little deeper turn, because already your hands are starting to disconnect from your power source. Okay, good job here. You catch up, but the problem is now your arms are disconnected from the power source and they're kind of going on their own journey. So ideally, you just need to stop here. I mean, you stop there. Look at that. That club is still in its slot. All you can do from there is drop and turn. But as you take that club further back, you're disconnecting from your power source, and that also starts shifting your weight incorrectly. As you saw from the front of the view, you start kind of tilting into the target, and then you have to untilt and drive. So I would suggest stopping to, right about here. Maybe increase your turn as well to get your hands more out in front. But let's take a look what happens at impact. As you start driving in, your hands need to start to catch up. So you either slow down your motion to allow your hands to catch up, or you start to stand up to allow your arms to catch up. You can already see some posture loss halfway down your swing. Your spine angle is starting to get crunched. And you can see as a result, most of your weight is going to shift to your toes, because everything's kind of crunching in and it's not really driving and creating the space that you need. Your plane is fairly steep for where it needs to be. I'd like to see it more down, because now you're going to have a lot easier time to hit on the upswing while you turn through. But let's see if it should follow that path pretty good right now. There it goes, slightly over the top. So that over the top is caused by maybe the alignment is a little open at start, plus your disconnection. So when you're disconnecting, the arms have to reconnect at some point, and it's usually the latter half of the downswing. So that latter half of the downswing, if you turn a little bit too much while your hands are trying to reconnect, that gives you a little over the top motion. So I would expect your misses to be either severely left every now and then, because you have a path that goes right with an open club face that's slightly open. That ball's going very far left, uncontrollably left. And you probably pull some of your short irons, if that looks familiar. That's basically what's causing this. Arms are kind of high at this point. You can see now, look at how much you're hitting it off the heel, because your hand placement is really high. There's some issues going on there. However, you do a relatively good job of staying your posture, because you've lost half of your posture in the first half, but then as soon as you get from first half to impact, you stay on that secondary posture that you've created. But you can still see this crunching effect going on with the back. Now your spine angle, your neck is holding its position down, but your true spine angle now is more like here. So you definitely moved your angle up, and that raises your arms up too. So that gives you that contact issue. But as you come on through, try and hold that brace line. You can see now your body's really falling towards your toes. You can really see you struggling to stay up, and then you let that motion keep you upright. But past impact, you can see both heels are up in the air. I want you to try and Google spine angle on YouTube. Go to YouTube, just type in spine angle retainment or keeping your spine angle in your swing, and take a look at Tiger Woods. He does a really dramatic drill where he tries to push his butt further back as he strikes a golf ball. That's what he's trying to go for, that feel. So something like that might help you, but like always, make sure you consult a professional, because they can truly help you out. And I hope you enjoy your days in England. And even if you're not in England, for me, you're in England, but let me know if that's correct, and good luck to you. And let's go on to the next one. All right, next we have Lee. So Lee, also no notes. So we're going with a blank slate. We have no idea about anything in terms of your issues with your body. So do me a favor, get it checked out just in case, because you might have range of motion issues that you don't know of, and I definitely have some myself, so I can attest to that. Starting position looks pretty decent, slight slight forward press. I can assume your golf ball is down over here somewhere. Let me bring that up again. I assume your golf ball is down over here. So what we can do is take a look at where your spine is in relation to your golf ball. So there's your shoulder tilt, spine's kind of sticking down over here. That's a little bit too much of an angle. So let's redraw that. So spine's right about there. So it's slightly ahead. Your spine is slightly ahead of your golf ball. So we got the lines ready here. Let's take a look at that back swing. Okay, you do a good job of turning around that back brace line. You can actually see some spacing involved, possibly too much turn. You can see your arm position looks pretty low. So anytime that club goes between, in between your head, means the arms are pretty low, and that's usually a result of turning, maybe too much turning, not getting to that secondary plane line. So we'll have to look at down the line to see how that is being affected and why that is. You can see a little bit of too much turn in the hips because that left knee's starting to brace down and buckle down. Now your upper body's kind of leaning towards the target. If I draw a straight line down at your back, you can kind of see it's leaning towards that target. So you've kind of lost your spine angle. Your first spine angle was here. Now you've lost your second spine angle. It's tilting towards the target. So that could cause some issues as you unwind into the golf ball. It's all just about turning around your posture if you can do that as best as you can. As you drive into it, so you've righted yourself. You definitely drive that lower body. Arms looking pretty good. Okay, you hold on to that angle pretty well. How do we get back to impact? Okay, so we've basically shifted our body ahead of the original position, and your hands have kind of reached into that position as you strike it. Now, do we release it? We kind of hold off on that release. So you see there's not much motion with the hands and arms. So typically we see that when we start with a forward press. In essence, you've started with a forward press just because your tilting was pushing that hands way ahead of the golf ball. And as a result, we usually see people that turn a lot and hold that release out, or else they lose the golf ball way left, or they tilt really under to hold off that release. Either way, you're trying to hold off that release, because if you will release it correctly and stay in your spine angle, you'll hit it heavy all day long. So you've learned how to kind of navigate away from that, maybe not even knowing you're doing that, just out of trial and error through hitting golf balls. But let's take a look at the down the line, because that might help us see what's going on with your planes. All right, Lee. So, man, I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess Kansas. I'm dead wrong, but Kansas. I'm just sticking with it. Okay, let's take a look. Let's get you lined up. Okay, you're looking ready to go. So let's draw some plane lines here as we take that club back. Let's see what goes on with footwork. Let's see what goes on with posture. Okay, yeah, so definitely flatter at the top of your position, which explains why your club is going through your head. Definitely a lot of posture loss at impact here. And the motion is taking you into your toes. If you take a look at your toes, as you drive into the golf ball here, you're coming off that right foot. It's pushing up into your toes. Excuse me. You're coming on through it. Gets there to your heels eventually, but I think that's just a result of you turning past the golf ball because of your forward press. But in terms of what's causing that lower secondary plane with your arms, and you can already see that breakaway of the wrist, right? So all of a sudden, the wrists are hinging a little bit too early. That I would prefer to see. I much prefer to see you establish all your turn right away. That way, you've established the depth, you've established that stretch, and you can just lift your arms to that secondary plane line. But once you get your wrist to hinge that club right away, and then you try to turn, the hands and arms are going kind of separate ways. So you can see your arms are pulling back behind you while you're turning. You get that flying right elbow to create that room. That's a very low plane. I mean, I've seen a lot of people hit it good from there, but they can hit it good from there if they hold their spine angle. Now, the problem is when your arms are so low to hold that spine angle and turn, your right arm is going to rub into your body pretty soon. So you don't have the room to kind of drop it into the slot naturally while your body tilts and moves out the way. So as a result, you've kind of learned how to move into the golf ball and stand up slightly as your first move. So look at your body. Your body's kind of getting out the way to create the room for that right elbow to come from the inside so much because it's flat that you have to create the room to get out the way. So you're trying to stay in your spine angle, but you can see your spine is definitely coming up as you're coming into the impact position. Then you do a good job of tilting around that. So you can see from here to here, it actually looks pretty solid in terms of your upper body. It's staying pretty square. It's not moving much, but the quote unquote, the damage has been done already. You've kind of stood up as a result, your hands needing the room to pass through evenly. And you get to that secondary plane pretty nicely there. So you do a really good job from about here to here. It's pretty good. Aside from that lower right foot kind of pivoting around. You need to push and drive that weight to your back left heel more to create that room. But I think it all stems from a little bit of a setup issue and then also your initial takeaway. So you can see how your initial takeaway and positions you establish on your backswing really allow for a fluid downswing with the path of least resistance for your hands and arms while the body turns and creates all that power for you and drives into the ball with your chest, your hips, your legs, your back, all the big muscle groups. Hope that helps. Let me know, and good luck to you. Next up. All right, next we have Lorem. So Lorem, no video notes here, so we'll just go with what we see. I presume this is kind of a 6-iron, 5-iron, right in that territory. I'm going to say that's Southern California because what other sky does not have clouds? I mean, Southern California is notorious for no clouds, so let me know if that's correct, somewhere in Southern California. Let's take a look at this motion here before we start drawing some lines. Nice windy day. Okay, so pretty good. I'm not sure how long you've been playing. If I remember correctly, you're fairly new. So let's go from the beginning. So first of all, let's check your alignment and your posture. So there's your shoulder tilt. Look at this. That's pretty solid there. So that's what we're talking about. So the spine angle goes right through the hands, right down through the shaft, right to that ball position. So in terms of the club that you're using, in terms of how you're setting up, ball position wise is perfect. Posture is pretty good from this angle. Maybe a little wider stance. It looks like you need a little bit more base foundation. But all in all, it's pretty solid there. We take a look at the right side. So we put a little brace line in that right leg and then an impact line. You can see there's not much room for impact line, so a little wider stance gives you a little bit more room as well to move into that golf ball. So we take that club back. Let's put one more around your head. Okay, so we take that club back. Okay, you do a good job of turning around that right brace line, so there's definitely a lot of hip turn. I do see a lot of leaning going on. Now the problem when you start to lean, so that top position, you can see I can draw a line like this. So your whole spine is shifted over to your right foot. Now, again, you can hit the ball from anywhere, and you can hit it from anywhere pretty well if you're talented enough and have enough time to dedicate to hitting golf balls. But my goal is to provide you with a motion where you don't have to hit as many golf balls, so you can actually play this game and enjoy it a little bit more. So I would recommend just staying more neutral with your upper body. So feel like the weighting is more on the inside of your foot here instead of shifting all the way to the outside. Once it's shifted to the outside, it's hard to push off on anything because when you push off, your foot will roll over usually. If it's on the inside, that means you've tilted and turned and go down to your inside of your heel, and that way you can at least have something to push off on. It's like jumping. You want to jump and lean off to your left side. So as a result, I'm sure you'll start to lean into it again. Golf club position, it's a little too far for me. You can see you can start to break down, and some of this has to do with the weight of the club and the speed that you move. So if you have a very fast backswing, that club head's going to start to weigh more than other club heads. So that usually is a result of speed. So maybe slow it down, get more deliberate with your hands and arms in front of you, because that's going to start to play havoc on you, because now you have to lean into the target and now you have to unravel 3 levers. So you've got your first lever in your shoulders, now you have a second lever in your elbows and a third lever in your wrists. If you can take away that second lever of your elbows, you won't have to retime as much. So the golf club head now has to go from here all the way around to hit that golf ball. If you can get your arms to be a little straighter, a little bit more deeper turn, and be more stable, now your club head might only be here. So now you've eliminated a good 30% of that motion, so less can go wrong. You know, you only have 0.2 to 0.3 seconds to hit the golf ball from this position. So what way can you do it in a routine fashion and still create power? Because just because the club head goes from here to here doesn't necessarily equate power. It might actually bring in more issues than power. So it's really not worth it, and you don't sacrifice much. But let's take a look at how much that club head will have to move back. So here comes that initial lean. So you've leaned back into it, into your initial spine angle. Look at this. You're right where you started from. But has that done anything for you? Because now all of a sudden, as you lean, that outer edge of the circle gets faster. Now all of a sudden, nobody's hands and wrists are really strong enough to hold that lag position if the outside of the circle is going faster and passing through your hands. So your club is actually passed through your hands already before you hit the golf ball. So as you get to here, you know, it should be in that position once that right hand gets over the thigh. But you've already lost your conservation of angular momentum by a good 30 degrees, so you've lost potential power. Now you're just going to be kind of slapping at it with whatever you have left, and you can see that past impact here the breakdown on this side. So the breakdown on this side is caused, we call that a chicken wing, but it's usually caused because the hands pass through too soon, and as a result your left arm has to break away to absorb that so you don't start breaking your wrists. So there has to be some sort of breakage, like a little spring effect or a shock system, to help you pass that club through and create the room. So as a result, you look how much the club has moved. So the club has moved from here to here in the downswing. Ideally, it should move from that X to here in the downswing. So you're making too much effort for little results. I hope that helps from this view. And as you come through, you get to your lead side really well. So you can see there's just a lot of that motion here that's causing you to release your momentum, angular momentum too soon, and you kind of slap at the golf ball. So let's take a look from down the line, make sure you're doing good there. All right, Lauren, so down the line, take a look at your setup here really quickly. Make sure you're doing good. It looks like feet are good, hips are good, shoulders look okay. Everything looks pretty good. It's kind of hard when students send videos when they're on black, just because it's hard to see where they're lining. However, you can see your arms. Let's make sure this is where you are before you hit the golf ball. Okay, so your arms are kind of pushing out away from the golf ball. When that happens, now your circle's kind of going to go in an extended motion on the way down. You want your arms to kind of relax from the hip sockets down, because if they start raising up high, you can see how much little room you have to use as your slot. But if you can get your arms to be lower, that will in essence take your club path a little bit lower. Now all of a sudden you have so much more room to work with, and by you doing that, you might have to stand a little bit further back, maybe bend over a little bit more, just to get your arms to be more natural. Now if you have shorter arms than most people, then you'd have to go and see about lengthening your clubs to allow you to do that. So club length is really about arm to ground spacing. It's not necessarily about how tall you are, so you might want to look into that if that's an option for you. But let's take a look at the spine angle and also that back brace line, see how this works. And we got a little headline there to show us. So it looks pretty good. Here, your club face is slightly open to your spine angle, not too bad. As a result, though, your shoulders might be leveling slightly. No, they do a good job. They catch up, so they're fine. Arm gets that top plane line. So again, if you can just stop there, that's all you need. You don't need to go all the way back to here, because what's happening to your body? Look at your body. It comes out of its posture a little bit, and already now it's like, well, wait a minute. I've got to reconnect all this in 0.2 seconds. I got a lot of work to do. So what do I have to do? I have to lean back into the target, which, because now I've moved over, I have to move back, and that's going to throw your plane. So your planes now all of a sudden has to reconnect somehow to fit into here. Do we do it? We do it, okay? But we do it by starting to pull away and stand up, and that club goes now below. So it came from above to below, which is not necessarily the idea you want. Club face is really open at this point. So you don't want it to be open here. You want it to be starting to close. Now there's two ways to close it, either with your wrists or with your body. So we can see there's not much turn going on here to help you square that club face up. So you kind of relied upon your hands to do a lot of this motion as you come into the target here. There's your golf ball. So you see there's not much turn going on here. You've kind of stood up to make room for your hands and arms to help you, because they are now relied upon from that third lever, from getting too much involved. And now you're starting to kind of push into the target and stand up to give your arm the room it needs because of the lack of turn and tilt. So that's what we see when we have too much arms motions. You come on through, club face is slightly closed here, should be a little bit more closed, and you do fine though. You hit the golf ball, you come on out of it, but look at that posture. Now all of a sudden you've seen how much you've lost. You moved into it, you've kind of stood up. So hopefully from these two videos you can see a couple things to work on. And if you're working with a professional, they should already be addressing these. If not, just let them know, hey, I got this little tip from a friend of mine, and he just went over this. What do you think? If you're not working with a professional, I highly suggest you do, especially in your early development phases. The last thing you want to do is do this on your own and think you're doing something right because you hit a few golf balls correctly. That's the worst thing that can happen, because most of the time feel isn't real, and you might be promoting stuff and learning stuff that's going to really be detrimental in the long term. So I hope that helps. Let me know about Soli, and best of luck to you. Keep in touch. That's who's next. Right, next one up is Luca. So Luca, I deeply apologize to Luca. He's been waiting since February. And the reason he's been waiting so long is because I put his submission in a different folder, and I just happened to clean out my folders one day, and I said, what is this doing here? So I reached out to him. He's still been waiting, so I appreciate your patience, Luca. Let's take a look at your notes for a second. And let me see here. Playing for over 6 months, Had a couple group coaching sessions, just trying to improve stuff one thing at a time now by himself. He sees some inconsistencies with his lower body and upper body, so just wanted to take a look at it. I'll do my best job for you here, Luca. And let's look at this swing without any lines first to see what's going on. Okay, so right off the bat, we can see some tilting issues going on to help you get those arms and hands inside. And then you come on up to be comfortable, and then you turn on through. So, you know what, Luca, you do a lot of good things here. And the thing I like about your swing is it's very body-oriented. You know, usually when people first start the game out, they are not so body-oriented, and they're very arms and hands-oriented. And the reason why I say this is, you know, you start out with a nice triangle here. Okay, and watch this triangle. It doesn't really break away much. You get to the top of your swing, and right about there, and there's a triangle again. Look at that, it's pretty solid. You come down to impact, boom, there's another triangle. And they're all about the same width, which means you're striking this with your body. Follow through pulls in, so the triangle gets shorter, but you can still see there's a triangle. So with all those triangles going on, that's a great sign that you are using your body correctly and you're connecting it to your power source, which is your hands. So as long as you keep that in motion and you work on your range of motion, you work on your flexibility, things should get a little bit better for you. You know, most of the time when you're new, you know, when I teach a student that's never played the game or has just played for a couple months, and we start working on body, we start working on striking the golf ball, you know, I get a text from him next day or the next couple of days saying, you know, my back hurts in places I've never hurt before. I feel like I'm stretching. I feel like, you know, my muscle hurts here. I never knew even had a muscle there. So, you know, while you develop your motions, you'll start to develop elasticity, you'll start to develop range of motion by itself, but also get yourself tested just in case you have this motion as a defense mechanism by your body to protect any other thing that it doesn't feel like it can get into positions for. So, but all in all, I'd say it's a really good starting point. In terms of your alignments here and your ball position looks okay. I'm not sure what club you are hitting here, but there's a spine angle that goes right through your hands. So ball position may be a little bit forward for this here. Let's see if you don't right yourself. So it might be a little bit forward for your position. So move that thing back a little bit if this is how you want to set up. Weighting, it looks like your weighting is a little bit too much on your right side. You can see some of this is pushed off to that right leg. Now it's going to be hard for you to transition some weighting. You definitely increase your tilting on the way back, and we'll have to look at down the line how that affects you. But usually that pops out your right hip over the target, but you do a good job halfway point to now stabilize and just level your shoulders out. So that's where you want to be at the top of the swing, but how you get there by going down and back up could cause some weight loading issues as you drive into the target. So I don't see much weight loading issues. I don't see much efficient weight loading in the swing, and as a result, there's not much to push off. So you just kind of go into the motions, and you can see here, you know, you try to push off at the very end to see what you can do, but it's just not quite there. So some drills you can do is weight loading drills with a medicine ball in front of your chest. Just, you know, turn and tilt at the same time, but get used to getting that weight to the inside of the right leg, so at least you have something to push off on. But let's look at the down the line, because that might help us open our eyes a lot to this. Okay, Luca, first of all, let me just guess where you're from, because that looks really cold out there, and I wouldn't be out there if that was me, but I'm just going to have to say Germany. Let's just throw that out there. In terms of your setup here, we can see, you know, arms are hanging down nicely. You can see this club, the toe looks up in the air, so maybe stand a little bit taller, because that toe is definitely popping up in the air. Maybe the clubs might be too long for you, or just something, but it definitely looks like you're squatting down and kind of crunched, so that could limit some issues. And maybe I can see why you can't really turn, because there's not much spacing for you to turn, so the only way you have to go is to tilt first and then turn, so that could be an issue there. We can tell this by looking at that spine angle. That's pretty big spine apple. There's a pretty good spine angle for that club, and that looks like a longer club. But let's take a look at your first move as you take that club back. So there's that tilt. Yep, there we go. So the tilting, you can see what that does. I mean, your tilting pulls your hands way inside with a severely shut club face. Okay, so severely shut compared to your spine angle. Now from there, you probably recognize, and your body says, hey, look, I can't tilt anymore. I'm going to pop a disc. So let me just go ahead now and stand up and turn. So now you get back to your original spine angle. Your hands are on that secondary plane line. your club face is still slightly shut. It's not as closed. So you wind up there fine, but how you get there is a little bit, unusual. I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but just by you doing that tilting first, it really steps in and messes up your weight transfer potential delivery. As you come on back down, you see you drop that club fairly in the slot. Now it's a little bit outside the in. That's because there's not a lot of tilting going on with the upper body. So you do a good job of turning through. Look at that turn. That's fantastic. So you're turning through, you're driving the golf ball. There's not much behind that golf ball in terms of power. I would say from here, you definitely need to start to tilt a little bit with that right shoulder. And how we tilt with that right shoulder is driving that left knee into the target. So once you get your left knee to push your left hip in, your upper body will tilt back, and that'll help you drop in that slot without moving your hands or arms to coordinate that for you. And it's just a slight one. We don't want to over exaggerate, but just enough where we can drive and get that right shoulder under, and then from there push whatever we have stored in our power in our feet. So the tilting issue is throwing off the storing issue, and if there's nothing to store into it, there's no tilting into it, and all of a sudden you just have this rotation motion and a path issue as well. But all in all, I mean, for the amount of time that you've played, I'd say you're well ahead of the game. Kudos to you for taking lessons. I think everybody needs to take lessons when they first start the game. 99.9% of golf professionals can teach beginners really well. So you can't go wrong. I mean, you can't just go to a golf professional. He's not going to ruin you. He's going to definitely help you out. So for those that are not involved in lessons, even as an experienced player, definitely go get one, because we all kind of have issues to work out and really help improve the flow of the motion. But kudos to you. Best of luck to you. Apologies it took so long to get to you, but I think you're well on your way. A couple of changes that you need to make. Go talk to a pro and see if they see what I see as well. But hope that helps you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, again for joining me. Episode 24 is right around the corner, and we're going to cap the series out at some point. Just don't know when. As long as people still keep submitting videos, we'll keep going. So if you know anybody that wishes to submit videos, you don't have to follow Reddit. You can just submit it. The information's in the description below. And once again, thanks for joining me, and best of luck to you. See you soon. Fairways and greens.